well, Josh will probably get into this a little bit with all the technology stuff going on these days. Because are we live?
We are
Yes.
live. Welcome,
Oh.
everybody.
Yeah, we're
Go ahead,
live.
Josh.
Yeah, I'll
Take
kick
it
it off
away.
over here. Jen.
Were you going to finish what you were saying, Eric?
No, I'm waiting for Josh to take us live. I'm excited.
it.
We got a lot of
We're
news articles. This is
live.
gonna be
There's
good.
so much news. All right,
Welcome
Josh, bring
to
us
the
home.
audit. Okay, here we go. You are listening to the audit presented by IT Audit Labs. I'm your co-host and producer, Joshua Schmidt, and today we're joined by the usual suspects, Nick Mellum and Eric Brown. And then we have Jen Lotzi with us today, riding shotgun from the IT Audit Lab office in St. Paul. We're bringing you some live news today, going to talk about some headlines. We all picked out a news article that stood out to us. So how is everybody feeling today? Let's just do a little check-in. Eric's got some stuff he wants to get into here. So let's do a check-in, do an icebreaker. Eric, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It's
feeling
cold.
good? It's cold.
It's really cold. We had a high school student. He's a senior. He came in to see how the vegan sausage is made here at IT Audit Labs.
The chorizo,
behind the scenes, the vegan chorizo. We had pizza. Yeah, it was cool.
Nice.
He had some questions. Just he's in some cybersecurity classes now in high school, and he it was just a good opportunity to see what happens in the real world in cyber.
It's cool to see the
We didn't show him any of that, though.
operators coming into the office, engaged.
Jen, how are
Yeah.
you doing today? Are you staying warm out there in Wisconsin? How's the commute these days?
It's good. I'm just looking at that beanie that we're looking at
Yeah,
here.
well,
like that's
The
Yeah.
expensible
for the
beanie.
course.
Well, you know, I had to bring this in since we were talking about some fun stuff today, and we're talking about the cold. You know, Eric has injected this into my Instagram and all the marketing timelines across all of my browsers now. Thanks to him sharing this. This is an EMF Faraday cage for your noggin, and I did a little research here. This is a $75 beanie, y'all. So you know,
I see that. Mm-hmm.
you know, so you can be extra hipster. You can stop at the coffee shop, you know, roll it up
Oh
so it's
boy,
just
oh boy.
barely on the top of your
Oh.
head, just covering the dome. But I did a little
Well,
research
Brown
on
had
The
his hat
secret-
on today with the tag
Yeah,
right
you
over
told me I
his
wasn't
eyes.
wearing it right. Hey, it's cold out.
Yeah, no.
So Josh, I can't take full credit for this one. My brother sent this one to me, and my brother's an artist. He used to teach at the Maryland Institute College of Art. He's retired now, but he sends me a lot of different Instagram things, and this was one of them. It's got silver thread in it, and it harkened me back to the episode that you, Nick, and I did a while ago, where I don't know what we were talking about, but I know it had to do with UFOs.
Oh
And,
yeah, we have to
William
have a tinfoil
tinfoil
hat
hat.
section on every section.
Oh boy.
this is
Nick-
the modern tinfoil hat.
Yeah, this is an
Jen's
actual.
rethinking her guest experience today.
Always.
Jen,
always.
we always have a tinfoil hat section. So this we're kicking it off with the tinfoil hat today. So in case anyone's interested, you know, this blocks the EMF radiation from your dome, so your noodle doesn't get baked.
Quote unquote.
And I actually have, I'll throw this in the show notes here, but there's actually Prepper Press has a very, very thorough breakdown on the
Prepper
EMF
Press.
situation, health concerns, pregnancy, exposure levels that are acceptable. So we'll put this in the show notes for all our preppers and tinfoil hat enthusiasts out there. So I wanted to kick that off today with a little something fun. Yeah. So we can expense this, right, to the
For
IT
sure.
Audit Labs account?
Absolutely.
Okay. Great.
It's
Or the-
yeah, we got to.
We get 10. It's only like, I think we'll get a discount. It'll be like
So-
$700.
Well, along those lines, I was having some stuff delivered. No. I was having some stuff delivered to the house today, right? And I always love these calls. So he calls me up and he's like 10 minutes away. And he goes, I'm just confirming your address. And then he starts, he's like, I'm downtown in the town next door. And then he starts relaying like street directions back to me, like, okay, I'm going to go up this street, over this street. I'm like, yo, dude, just put it into the GPS and it'll take you there.
Yo, dude.
He goes, I'm old school. I don't use GPS.
Oh,
So then I'm like, well, what now? I got to relay directions to you. So I said, look, I just moved. I don't know how to get there myself. I just put it in GPS, and that's all you got to do. And then he's like, well, I'm waiting for the day where technology goes away, and I want to be able to just get there on my own. So I was like, well, okay.
Today's not
And
the
he
day,
figured it
buddy.
out, I guess.
sounds like a Luddite was what we call that, as opposed to technological
Printing out the
advancement.
map quests or whatever you used to do.
How
Copilot.
are you not using GPS these days?
Yeah, I mean, he's still relying on
We have it.
technology to call you to get the directions, right?
You got to work hard. Yeah.
Listen, I'll
Um,
tell you, when I was learning to drive and had to use MapQuest to get around.
oh yeah.
This one time, my friends and I decided that we were going to just go for a drive to this like club. And I ended up getting stuck on a roundabout to the point where I couldn't figure out how to go the right direction. So we just ended up turning around and going home because that was the only thing I could figure out. So
Wasn't
just
that
to
in a
make that
Chevy
connection
Chase
clear,
movie too? They were
GPS
like
is a
in Europe.
lifesaver. I don't know, but it was my life, and
in the
I was so
roundabout.
sad because we were like 5 minutes away, and I could not figure out how you get off a roundabout. It was very complicated.
Nick, let's have a guessing game here. What was Jen's first car? Color,
Ooh.
make, year, model.
Ooh,
If-
okay.
I'm gonna take a shot in the dark here. I'm gonna guess it's a Volkswagen.
Hmm.
I'll say Jetta.
Mhm.
That was my
Boxy,
third
but good.
car.
And I would say
Mm.
it's kind of
Mm.
eclectic. So, excuse me. I was gonna say white or red on the color. That's where I'll go. Jetta.
Mm.
Ooh.
What do you got, Josh?
I was thinking like red Honda Accord or maybe a
also a
Toyota
good one.
Corolla. You know, good starter car. She,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know, I think she's a loyal Toyota customer, so maybe that's
Sparkles.
I'm gonna
Sparkle.
go
sparkly.
tan, like one of those kind of light tan Subaru 1979 Subaru of some sort. What's the Subaru wagon?
Outback.
The white. Oh yeah,
Legacy.
It's
yeah,
the smaller one.
Legacy or the-
Legacy. No,
small-
Legacy's a sedan.
The
yeah.
Legacy.
Oh yeah.
The smaller
Okay.
wagon, light tan 79. What do you got, Jen?
With the far back seat actually faces
Okay.
the back. That would be cool.
I was a 1996 Nissan Altima. It was my dad's car that he
Oh.
gave to me. It was a
Rich.
great car until about until I accidentally rear-ended a Land Cruiser on my way to summer school while listening to the thong song. And so then I was out of commission with the Nissan
Let's
Altima
go,
for
bring
a
it back.
while.
This did not happen in the
Listen,
roundabout.
I just have to be. Did not. It happened on Schaumburg Road in Schaumburg, Illinois, the day of my Constitution test. So
Oh boy. Well, I think
Yep.
this episode is morphed into get to know Jen.
thong song.
I'm here
First
for
car.
it. Honestly, it was a
Alright.
great song. There's a whole story behind it.
Oh, we can probably take that offline.
I was hoping we could play the
It's not
thong
HR
song.
appropriate.
It's actually connected to classical music. It's connected to classical
Where's
music.
Kelly?
I'll tell y'all later.
Yeah, we need HR.
She's in your office.
No more Cisco references.
Kelly, we
on the
got a-
podcast.
Whoever's
Emergency
watching
here.
this, maybe no one is, but you might watch it after. You might watch this after, but do you see what I deal with every day? Because I think your viewers are going to side with me here.
I think they would consider you lucky,
They
but
love it.
we'll leave it there.
I'm just saying.
So,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Ivan, the high school kid who was coming in
Okay.
for a look
So are we
around,
talking about
he's
anything
telling me, he's like,
cybersecurity
yeah, you know,
related? Because this is
I watched your
you know,
podcast. He's like, yeah, I watched the podcast.
Yeah.
And Jen jumps in and she's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Are you watching the audit or SIP Cyber? And then he's like, oh yeah, you know, I watched the episode and he was explaining which one he was watching. And then Jen's like, no, you don't watch that. You got to watch SIP Cyber.
Oh, nice.
I did say that. I can guarantee he's going to listen to all of them now.
Oh boy.
All right, who's ready
Josh,
for
get
some
us on
news?
track here, would you?
Who's
Are we
ready
gonna go
for
for
some
prep
news?
press here?
Josh, I'm ready for news, Josh.
Let's go.
I'm
Yeah,
focused
let's
right
give the
now.
people what they want.
All right. Without further ado, we have our first article. This one's coming from Nick. Nick sent me this from the Tech Radar Pro, and talking about phishing scams. Who are the most spoofed brands in phishing scams? Let's be honest, you can probably guess most of them, but there are a few surprises. So this goes on to explain how 22% of all brand phishing attempts are tied to impersonating Microsoft. DHL was the only campaign outlier in the top 10 that wasn't a tech firm. And identity is the biggest attack surface for cyber criminals. So Nick, serve this up for us for discussion. Why did this stick out to you, and how does it relate to kind of what we do at IT Audit Labs?
Yeah, I do. I like to, well, first off, this article stuck out to me because I like to have a little reflection on maybe the previous year, what we did wrong, what we did right, and then how we can learn from those two items. Doesn't have to be good or bad. So, with that thinking in mind, what was the trend of the previous year? Now, this article is relatively low hanging fruit because I think all of us on this call would have guessed basically everything that's here. But I think it resonates with anybody that's technical and not technical. We just got out of the holiday season. DHL makes sense. Amazon makes sense. We can look at all these from a market share standpoint, Microsoft being the kingpin here. Everybody, Fortune 500 companies, small organizations, it's pretty easy to guess that they're going to be running Windows, right? So that's going to be the easiest to market, for bad actors, right? They're going to go that route because they get a much bigger market share. But no matter what you're thinking, this article still just resonates with anybody. Like I said, your grandma could read it and be like, wow, I'm going to start watching out for Amazon campaigns or whatever it is. But it's an interesting article just to dissect from that standpoint to see if there was any outliers like DHL or something like that. So I'll pause there, but that was why I brought this article up.
Yeah, maybe we'll kick it to Eric, and then we'll get Jen in here on this too. But Eric, why do you think Microsoft is such a target? Is it just because it's kind of ubiquitous across a lot of tech platforms and entrepreneurial business usages, or is there something inherently attractive about the Microsoft ecosystem?
I think it's what Nick was talking about as well, where it's just a lot of companies use Microsoft for their identity provider or email, and you can impersonate campaigns. We'll talk about that a little bit with the other topic that we're going to talk about today, the other article on ClickFix, where it is a technique of they want to use the more popular things that are going to land in your inbox to entice you to click on something that looks legitimate. So it just makes sense that you would use something that people are going to normally expect, email, the type of email they're going to expect to see. We talk about around the holiday season, where we might see DHL or UPS or USPS, FedEx, what have you, where those types of phishing attacks might seem to be relevant at a time of season where a lot of people are getting packages. So I think it's the social engineering side of playing off of that, what people are expecting, so their guard is down a little bit.
I had one more thing to this too that sticks out to me because we're so ingrained with these brands. We know every one of them. So if you're reading let's say a phishing email, you're not going to second guess the name. You already know who the sender is. So if I'm social engineering somebody with a phishing email or phishing somebody, I could easily misspell the name to get you to still click on it. You're not going to register. Your brain's going to fix it and go right through because you already know Amazon, DHL, Microsoft, etc. Down the list we go. But you're much, I think you're going to be more apt to just cruise through because you know the brand versus something you maybe haven't seen. Right? You might take a second guess or a second pass at it and say, "Oh, that's not spelled correctly. I'm not going to click on this."
Yeah. And they can get really creative with that, right? Just like there's little tricks in the text and like the options for emojis and symbols
yeah.
and things like that, where you can replace, N's and things like and O's with zeros, for example.
Yeah, Google. You add a third one.
Yep. So Jen, we know there's a lot of friction in companies of balancing security versus like implementing some of these controls, and we want to like balance usability with security. So how do you communicate that with the clients and then like people in your professional life and personal life as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think some things that, so I'm a former school district technology leader, and I think a lot of what we think is the right thing to do is to talk to people about securing the work environment, the company, the documents we handle. But I think there are a lot of people that come to work to just do a job and get a paycheck. But if we come at it from this place of like personal cybersecurity and tell them how to keep themselves personally really safe and protect their information, that actually kind of flows into work. And so we get them hooked and get them engaged, and then we can talk about cybersecurity of the business. But I think the underlying foundation always has to be why. Like if I just say I'm locking something down for no reason and it doesn't make sense to them, like I want to always make sure that I give a little bit of the why, because it's unfair to just, like, IT is known as the place of no, so we kind of have to combat that a little bit. So IT is the place of no, but have you considered this other solution? Or no, because this is how this is hosted in China, and we prefer to make sure that any data that we have is hosted in the United States. So I think we just need to be very human about how people can protect the company, protect their company-wide data, but also know that all of our employees are humans too. And so if we connect them to how do you protect your kids, your parents, etc., it goes a long way further to just establish that culture than just sending a bunch of emails.
And Eric, where do you see the landscape going, especially in phishing and vishing? I know you just sent Nick and I quite a humorous audio recording of a vishing call you had. Where do you see this going? I mean, there'll always be the classics around, right? Like just the impersonations or scams on the phone, kind of making you panic, maybe, or try to elicit some panic to create an action on your behalf. But where do you see it going, and how do you help organizations prepare?
The first part of that question, Josh, I think it evolves over time. We remember, those of us who go back in tech a ways, remember the Nigerian prince scams, and obviously that worked for some because it they did it, and I think that's just evolved to a modern version of that Nigerian prince, and now we see ClickFix, where they're enticing you to copy paste. I know we'll get into that here in a little bit, but I think the social engineering aspect preys on the weakness of the human to either want to believe something that might be too good to be true, like the Elon Musk and free Tesla scams, or the romance scams. These threat actors are going to take advantage of the times and the technology to really try to victimize us. So I don't know where it's going. I just know that with AI and how legitimate we can have technology impersonate our voices or our writing, the detection side is just going to be more and more difficult. And we'll need to leverage both the technology side tools to help us, but also education. So that's one of the things that Jen, Nick, and I get out and do is talk to the community around these things that are happening and making people aware, so that when this does land in their inbox, they're at least more aware of it. Because now it's voicemail, it's email, it's texting. Pretty soon it'll probably be robots knocking on your door.
Yeah.
Right. I've been involved in two recently that have just been truly awful. Like one was with a title company. I'm guessing that the title company got phished, and someone somehow got some access to some information. And long story short, this title company got spoofed, and someone actually got taken for $116,000. And just working with this person from the ground floor up, they are submitting it to like 10 different complaint centers, and like there's really no way that you can work to like collectively try to get that money back. Like it is a really hard process. And this person's very tech savvy, and it just goes to show that like it doesn't make you like weak or anything. Like it was a really, really, really good scammer. And it's bad. It's like $116,000, and this person's getting feedback from law enforcement saying, well, it's 116. we don't really know if we have capacity for that. It's not big, and I just, it's so hard right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing those thoughts. Nick, anything to add to that?
No, I mean, I think we're on the path. Everything is just gets more sophisticated. We're living in a place right now where anybody can download an app and spoof what they look like in real time. So, let's say Eric used the term the romance scheme. There's a much more not so good term that it's called pig butchering. We'll leave it at romance schemes, but you could download an app and now actually talk with this person face to face, looking like what you said you were. In fact, you're not. So instead of trying to like, oh no, I can't do the call right now, or I'm out at a party, or whatever the lie is at the moment, you can actually get on video with this person you're involved with
Hmm.
and spoof who you are to further your case and try to get money from somebody, right? So I think it's the same thing as most the schemes that are happening right now. Things are just getting better. So in return, we're trying to get better and learning from this, but we're just trying to keep up.
I think they're gonna, if I may be so bold, I think they're gonna get more customized, right? With all the OSINT
Hmm.
scraping and the amount of data that we're putting out on social media. So this has shown up in the last 10 years as kind of an evolution for me. Since I have a lot of my music stuff online, I've got some emails that are very specific, asking me, if I would like to engage services from brands that are really reputable and kind of tastemaker brands, like record labels that maybe not everyone's heard of. But we would just have to do a little bit of digging to know that might be something I follow on Instagram or interested in. So instead of being like, "Hey, I'm the CEO of Sony Music," well, that's kind of unbelievable. It'll be like more like I'm an A&R rep from this boutique New York indie label, right? So I think that's just going to show us that those OSINT methods and the scraping, maybe using AI, are going to make those phishing attempts a lot more customized and directed. Shout out to Morningstar
Yeah, that one I was
6658.
on, same.
Yep. If you
Yeah.
guys got any questions, we are live today. We'll be going live once a month with news. So if you have any questions about what we're talking about today or something that you'd like to see us chat about, please drop them in the chat. But I want to segue into Eric's Click Fix. You just mentioned Click Fix, Eric. I'll serve this up to you, and then maybe you could kind of get us into this article a little bit. So I had to kind of read through. This is a very dense article from Info Stealers. But basically, from my understanding, cyber criminals created air traffic and an $800 tool that tricks 60% of its victims into hacking themselves. It makes legitimate websites look broken with corrupted text and glitches, then offers a fix button with instructions to paste code in your computer's command prompt. When you do that, it installs malware and steals your password and your credentials. And attackers use those stolen credentials to inject the scam into more websites, creating self-spreading infection cycles. So yeah, and it seems like it bypasses all security software because your browser sees it as copying text and antivirus sees it as opening command prompts. But together, you just install malware on your computer if you fall for this. So another exploit of human panic. So what brought this to your attention, Eric? Has it been in the news?
Well, Josh, I'm going to just pause here real quick. I think Jen was going to interject something from before.
No, I was just gonna add on to Josh's thing that like this person, the hack was totally customized to her. It had dollar amounts and cents that she had already been given from her realtor. So I think you're totally right, Josh. Click fix.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, on the click fix, we see this a lot. Across industry, it is unfortunately a really popular way that threat actors are attacking organizations. In St. Paul here, we just had a pretty big breach a little while ago with city of St. Paul, and I think the publicly facing attestation was that it was from a drive-by, but they haven't released more details yet around exactly what the indicators of compromise were. But this click fix, as a standard term from a piece of malware that when you visit a website, and it could be either embed in this article here talks about how it can be embedded really as a program onto a site that a threat actor gained a foothold on. Could be part of potentially. We've seen it in maliciously formed banner ads as well. When a individual goes to the website, the the um, the the attack method is to entice them to copy malicious code, which is downloaded to their browser, and they're doing a copy paste command into uh, essentially the command line of their computer. And what this is doing is taking somebody that you don't have to have any technology experience, because it's telling you exactly what to do, right? Hit the Windows key, do copy Control V, and then um, the run command and Control V into the system, and then when you're hitting enter, it's running this command unbeknownst to you on your computer, which is then going out and potentially getting additional malware, or calling home to a server that's going to send further instructions. And it's a self-replicating cycle, because what they're trying to do is get information about maybe web servers that you may have access to, and they're downloading the credentials to those web servers. They'll go and install content, this malicious content on those web servers, so that when additional people go to those web servers, then they become infected as well, and the cycle just continues to repeat. And I think this particular piece of software is you can essentially purchase it for $800. So a little bit of money, but in the grand scheme of things, um, if you're selling the credentials that you capture, or other information that you're getting from the victim's machine, that $800 could easily pay for itself pretty quickly. And the reason why this one is so bad, Josh, is because it is exploiting the human, where you had mentioned that the browsers aren't really detecting it, and the the antivirus on the computer is not really detecting it, because it's essentially exploiting the human in the middle, between those. And until we do something where either the machine itself or the browser is actually looking at the content of the data on the clipboard. Clipboard is where on a Windows machine, where the copied information would be stored temporarily between a copy and a paste. So you copy something and then it's stored in the clipboard and then pasted. Where it's this kind of transient memory. If there was a way in which the EDR, or the antivirus, would actually inspect and run that, then I think it might be able to detect it. Or secure browsers like the Prisma Access browser or the Island browser. Maybe there's some ways to more directly control that traffic. You could do something, but just on the everyday person's computer, there's not a lot you can do.
So how does it change the threat landscape when you see uh, basically sophisticated attacks that can be kind of installed or disseminated from these larger groups and then sold as just a point and click kind of a tool to someone that might not know how to technically put this together? Does that kind of just create a larger attack landscape and a little more see these popping up more frequently, or does it change kind of how we approach security in any way?
Yeah, I'll touch on the attack landscape, and Nick and Jen probably have some thoughts on prevention, but on the attack side, it certainly does, where it's becoming more and more pervasive because it works. So then that gets back to user education or tighter technical controls. And then when you tighten the technical controls, you get feedback from the user base that security is being overly restrictive. So it's a cat and mouse game, if you will. But I'll leave it to Jen and Nick.
Go ahead, Jen, if you got something.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least for me, I've been seeing it where we know that like you can buy a phishing campaign for $25, right? So I think it just makes the ability to do harm so much more accessible to more people, right? I think about my days from the school district. Our students were often our biggest insider threats because they knew that they could do these things. They would find all of the places that they could to exploit. I was grateful when they told us about them, but I think as far as the attack vector, it just makes it like it puts so many more threat actors into that space because it's so much easier. You don't have to be highly technical anymore to run these scams. I mean, a lot of our best scams are predominantly social engineering, right? They call you on the phone and they're doing all these things that don't actually involve any technology whatsoever. They just ultimately end up getting information from you that they can take and use and exploit. So I think knowing that it's only $800, I mean, that's a lot. I could get some really great shoes for that, but like it just makes it way too accessible, I think.
Yeah, great point, Jen. I was going to touch on the how accessible this is. I mean, here you've got a legitimate website selling something that you can just out of the box go. So it just shows the reach that malicious actors can have and how easy it is to, I guess, to get started. You don't have to, some of these companies have an HR department, right? You don't need to be to that level, but it really shows, I think, from our side, the training that we need to have with our staff. We've talked about this in great detail over many episodes. But from my understanding, and maybe somebody knows differently, I've never seen a website ask me to copy and paste. Right.
I
So to me, that's instantly a red flag, but that's, we work in the industry. So I think about that. But that's the low hanging fruit for me is to just think, because this is always true for me. If something like this is asking me to have a reaction to something like this, it's bad. Rarely could I think of a scenario where it's good. I'll leave it there because I got a lot of head
And,
shaking.
and what well, what it is when you go to the website, the page renders in such a way that maybe the screen shakes or the font looks a little bit blurry, and then you see this pop-up come up and that's the click fix, so to speak. The pop-up comes up that says, oh, your computer has been infected, or there's something wrong with your computer. Copy and run this command in order to fix it. And that's the human element.
Yeah. Yeah. And Eric already touched on this too. That's what makes this so hard. They're attacking people, not a machine necessarily, right? In the beginning, they need the person. It makes it incredibly difficult.
Yeah, to piggyback on that, you kind of already answered this, Nick, but maybe you can reapproach this. So traditional, training teaches us not to download suspicious files, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
this kind of looks, because it's asking you to copy and paste, it might appear to somebody that untrained or not paying attention that this is
Yeah.
actually a legitimate technical fix for something, right? So that's kind of
Hmm.
the hook here. So how do we train and talk to people about
That's a
things
good
like that? I think you
question.
touched on that, Nick, but maybe we could lean a little more into that.
It's a really good question. I think I'll attack this way. This is a good example of why it's so important to have your technologists, your cybersecurity experts, not sitting in a back room in an organization. They need to be out normally talking to, let's say you work on a factory line, a factory floor, right? Go out there, talk to the people that might be working on computers, go everywhere and have these discussions, put this in a newsletter, weekly, monthly, whatever your cadence is, but normalize these kinds of conversations, show what's happening out in the industries. If you have a company meeting, this would be a great topic to discuss because I don't think we're normalizing this specific, issue here. It's these are the things that you should just be trained to watch for. Everybody's sitting here on this call right now. if we see this instant, it's not even a second before you know it's BS, right? You just know right away. So that's what we have to work and continue to work to train staff across the board, C-level down and up. How do you teach them that trigger? And Jen is a good example for tabletop exercises. So that is going to
I
be my
thought you were
next
going to say
point.
I was a good example of a clicker.
No,
Sorry.
That
quite the
too.
opposite, actually. I was going to say Jen is a good one to talk about this with, because she's out at organizations of different sizes, talking about these things from a tabletop perspective, right? Practicing these things. So you have the initial training your staff, but then it's what do you do after, right? Let's say somebody does copy paste, practice after. So it's two parts. But again, I'll leave it there to get input from everybody else.
I think we could fish Jen with shoes, Nick.
Shoes, coffee,
to be good shoes.
records,
Concert tickets.
anything sparkly, really.
Jen, is clicker?
It's like you guys know me or something.
Is clicker a cybersecurity pejorative now that I'm not aware of? Is that what we can start calling each other if we're falling for phishing scams?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, oh yeah, you're a clicker. It's okay. We love you anyway, but you're a clicker.
I think that's the term now.
We could get
Also be a
anybody at any time though can get caught. I
Yep.
think all of us have been caught.
Yep.
Right? It happens.
Yep.
Nick, what you were saying, it just kind of took me back. I was on 2 tours last week of different customers, potential customers, and what have you. And one was actually, both were factory tours, and one while we're on these tours, like I'm looking at the technology, like, okay, how are the network runs? What sort of APs are they using? Right? Like, how are all these machines networked and working together? One of them, the machines were really old, didn't have any technology connected to them. So I'm like, okay, I wonder if they're using like some sort of sneaker network with USB drives or what have you. And then I noticed in one of the areas they had Ubiquity networking equipment. You can tell because it's like the round UFO shaped AP with the blue light on. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know, $100 million company running Ubiquity. I've got some more questions there. And then the next shop, same thing. I'm looking around and they've got Meraki equipment, newer Meraki AP. So right away I'm like, oh, okay. These guys, they probably are paying a little bit more attention to technology, and that becomes, that's more important to them. So different conversations certainly could be had out of that. But I think for all of us, right, like if, Jen is somewhere and could probably spot much differently than I could what type of shoes somebody is wearing that might give information about their persona.
Yep. Agreed.
Sorry to interrupt. We have a question here from one of our viewers that's patiently waiting. I'll throw it up on the screen here. I think the answer is just yes. Is it still true that even if we put all the security controls, we can still have a single person mess it up, right? Yes. Like,
absolutely.
But this is even more funny. I love this question. The beard guy is saying that cybersecurity guys should be an extrovert. Really?
This guy's
really.
Right. No, it is. I agree. Go ahead. Somebody was talking.
I think you're on this one, Nick. You're the beard guy.
No, and I was actually laughing about this the other night because it is so true. Asking people to be extroverts. But I think that's where we actually gain ground in this space, because true story, I was still a bearded guy 10 years ago, plus years ago, working at a manufacturing company, running some help desk tickets. And instead of just remoting into somebody's computer, I would walk out there to this third building to sit at that person's computer and fix the problem. And the reason I did that is because then that person, if they see something they don't know about or are unsure about, a phishing email, whatever it is, they just say, hey, I'm just going to call Nick. Right? So you build that culture. And that's what I'm saying. So great question. I appreciate his question. He is correct. That is a gap we're going to have to figure out. If it's not you, slowly but surely.
Nick, could it be in a larger organization? It's tough to have 30 Nicks running. You've got to have somebody at the keyboard
Yes, for
technically
sure.
savvy
Yikes.
Which we
doing the
did.
work,
Ooh.
but you could have people that are representative of the security organization out and about. And I think just to call back to what Jen was saying before, not making security a no, but it's a no but, or how do we do this to help the business?
I like the bearded guy question.
Yeah.
And I think too, of course you do. And I think too, like we always say that our people within our organizations are our biggest asset. They're our biggest strength as an organization, but they're also our biggest attack vector and vulnerability because, like you said, it only takes one person. But like we can use that to our advantage, right? Not all attacks our tools are going to catch. Our people are going to catch some attacks that our tools might not. So that's why it's just as important to invest in our people as it is to invest in those tools. You can spend millions of dollars on those tools, which is fine. But if your people aren't bought in and on the same page as you, it doesn't do you any good.
Spot on. Yep.
I
And I
can't
think
wait to see the next article.
with about
We
the
spent a lot of time
extrovert
on it.
introvert part too, like that's what I think a way you could bridge the gap is by like a newsletter, right? Just start putting this stuff in there and on a cadence, and then people get to know, the internal team.
Maybe I'll wrap it up here before we move on. That's kind of what we're tapping into our culture here at IT Audit Labs. We like to be out there mixing it up and spreading the message and interfacing with people, not just sitting in the server room in the dark. We that's kind of our brand, and that's something we really like to message with the people that we work with. We're going to be your partner. We're going to be out there with you, and I think that's where things need to go. Right, take it out of the shadows.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the next article that Jen brought up, and I thought this was really cool. I hadn't heard about this, but this is from 9to5Mac. Apple's working on an AI-powered wearable pin, and now this is a report, so this is kind of speculative. And there's always this tech arms race on the next product, but this looks like it could actually happen, especially since they're kind of going up against OpenAI to do a wearable device that will capture a lot of your speaking and your environmental stuff, maybe take some pictures, so that can summarize that in some way that's useful to you, perhaps, or instead of taking pictures with your phone, you could just go back and look at some of the places you've been that day or some of the interactions. But yeah, this is saying a wearable could be launched as early as 2027. Apple's Pin, which is a thin, flat, circular disc with aluminum and glass shell, features 2 cameras, a standard lens, and a wide-angle lens on its front face, designed to capture photos and videos of users' surroundings, the people said. It also includes 3 microphones to pick up sounds in the area surrounding or the person wearing it, and as a speaker, yada, yada. You get the idea. So, Jen, why did this stick out to you? And, what are the security implications here? There's some that are kind of stand out as obvious, but love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I always come from, so I come from the school district. I was a teacher, tech leader, all the things. And so I always live in this space about kids. So privacy is always like my number one thing. Actually, I'm super crazy about it. And I even struggle with this a lot too because we have wearables now. We have AI meeting tools. We're recording so much more information, I think, than we ever did. And I think in that space, it lowers our sensitivity to some of the things that we're doing. So I think like just because you have this wearable and you want all that information doesn't mean that the people on the other side want you to have that information about them. So I think I always find these articles and this tech really interesting because we live in this space of like you're supposed to have consent before you record someone. Can't record without their knowledge, and so this kind of makes it really interesting. Like what will the world look like as we move forward regarding privacy? It started with social media and has continued to evolve through influencers and all this stuff, and we have a different insight into people's lives, and I think this just continues. And I just wonder, like, who has access to that data? What if something criminal is recorded? Are there things? It's just it opens up this whole can of worms about privacy, and I use AI note takers. I appreciate them because then I can focus on the meeting and understand and listen better. But also, like, my voice is recorded, so when I make that dumb joke, like, it lives on in infamy. So that's really where my head goes around this. Like, what does this really mean? for privacy. So that's me.
Yeah, I think these things are really cool. Just, I think most of us just appreciate the technology, where things are going, glasses, etc. And that's, we already have the meta glasses as well, cameras, looking everywhere. Um, I think we've become accustomed to it. Do you like it? Probably not. But if you're in a public place, not much you can do about it, in reality. I just like it from a technical standpoint. I have one of the one of the first ones I've heard about, the B, I think it's called. Haven't really used it a terrible amount of times, but the idea, right, same as this. Pin it, you can walk around, have the conversations. It might show you where you had a conversation if you're in a meeting at a coffee shop, et cetera, et cetera. To me, they're handy tools, but I'd be curious to see which way Apple's going to spin this, because if we know anything about Apple, they'll have some way that they made it better, right? They'll wait to get into the space until they can press it along, because one of the biggest players right now is the Humane Pin, I think, something along those lines is the big player right now. I don't think it's going very well for them, from my understanding, but certainly here, Jen's already touched on it. For me, the big thing is obviously going to be privacy. Jen actually brought up exactly what I was thinking about. If a crime or something occurs, you catch it. Whatever the situation may be, would be really interesting how that's handled. In the past, if iPhone was used, Apple denied access to the FBI. So maybe we would see the same situation here, but time will tell.
Eric, you can stick one of these right on your Haven beanie and then wear it, and everybody will know. But I wanted to ask Eric, CISO experience. If you see people showing up to the office wearing these next year, let's say this trend just takes off, everybody loves them. What kind of frameworks are you thinking about putting up around this to secure company data, or maybe even proprietary information, IP, things like that?
Well, one, I think the whole brand's been going downhill since Jobs left in 2011. But other than that, specifically to address your question, I don't know that there's a lot that we can do without working with the individual client's legal team to discuss how they are viewing wearables and privacy in their office and working space, and do they have policy that governs it? Because that's where you would have to start.
Yeah, they actually mentioned something about your first comment about the brand going downhill. So they've outsourced some of their AI stuff. They haven't been doing well with AI reportedly, and they've outsourced that to Google, which creates a whole nother security implication, right? Because if we're
I thought
working
that
now
was so interesting too.
with Alphabet,
That's a
right?
great
Like
topic.
all of a sudden you're working with Alphabet. So, Apple, who's prided themselves on, storing that information and being a secure, closed ecosystems, now outsourcing a lot of AI stuff to Google.
It sounds like
that
Apple.
goes back to the.
Go ahead, Eric.
Oh, I was gonna, yeah, just the outsourcing of proprietary content kind of reminds me of what happened with 23andMe, where it got bought by private equity, and then here's something that our DNA data, right? It was like, okay, yeah, this company is gonna keep it secure. They have, they're ethical, whatever, and then 5 years later, whoops, got sold. Now this new company, private equity may not have the same ethos as the original company, and now who knows what's going to happen to that data. So same thing, and Apple's much bigger, but I think we just have to be, as consumers, conscientious of not only what's going on today, but what are the future implications.
Did you see this kind of like an AI moment in the way of that, like you're trying to hold water in your hand? You're not going to stop this advancement of wearables and things
Exactly.
like that. So, but maybe you could just circle back on, like, if people are wearing these to the office, do you start making policies around that with the organizations you're working with to tackle that and kind of get ahead of it?
Well,
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
twofold, right? Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, because I come from that school space, right? Like, we don't put cameras in classrooms. There's certain things that we just don't do, and so we put it in both our employee handbook and our student handbook about wearables, right? And recording, acceptable use policies are super important when it comes to this. But ultimately, like, you have to establish the culture so people know why, right? Like, we have to identify what data we have, where it lives, and how we're protecting it. So then when we say you can't use something like this, it makes sense. That's just me.
You know, I looking forward 5-10 years. I don't think we're going to be able to escape the outflow of data. I think it's just going to be ubiquitous, right? And Jen, I understand what you're saying now, but at some point cameras will be in the classroom. My prediction for they'll say it's for student safety, and wearables, glasses, pins, what have you. It'll just be commonplace, just like wearing a wristwatch today. Everything that you do from the time you get up to the time you go to bed, and maybe even while you're in bed, we've got monitors recording our sleep patterns and all that stuff now. I think it's just going to be a Black Mirror episode where everything is on camera 100% of the time. So if we wrap our minds around that, and then we think about how do we exist in that type of environment and start planning for that, that's probably the best use of time versus trying to hold it like water in your hands, because at some point in time it's just going to run through your fingers.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. It seems like it's coming a lot faster than we expect, and it will be interesting to see how Apple handles this next business cycle into the next 5 years. It seems like their AI person, their head of AI, just left. And yeah, what
Yep.
other things have you noticed about the brand, Eric, specifically? That because I mean, everybody knows that iPhone 17 is pretty much the same as iPhone 12. Might have a little bit better camera, maybe some more functionality, but by and large, it's pretty much the same product.
Yes. Ever since Ivy messed up the maps in 2012, and that was after Jobs left, right? The whole thing is, in my opinion, it become overly commercialized and away from the think differently full page ad that they took out in the New York Times, like whenever that was, decades ago, where it really was a different company. Now it's just a commercialized engine. And certainly, yes, I use the product. The products are decent, but I don't know that there's many other choices.
Indeed.
I'll tell you, I miss my Google Pixel. I was a Google person. I'm a school person through and through. We love our Google. I miss my Pixel phone. I'll tell you, on the security side of things, like spammers and the spam filters and holding for me, and like some features that just don't exist in Apple. So I'm hopeful that they're going to get to a place where that stuff comes in. But on the security landscape, oh my gosh, nothing ever made it through my Pixel phone. And on my Apple phone, it's a little different, but
Good thing we're
I
getting
wanted to fit
Gemini
in
and
with the
iPhone
team.
land.
Well,
This could be a whole nother episode, Josh. If
we got
want to
one
crack
more
open
question.
Apple.
Yeah. Well, we don't need to go too far, but we do have one more question, and then maybe we'll wrap it up after that, unless anyone has anything else. This is from Morningstar, has been rocking with us this whole time. So
I love it.
what are your thoughts about the personality rights lawsuits currently going on? Will normal people also be needing those in the future, like a standard for every citizen? Anybody want to tackle this?
The bearded guy.
I was gonna say, you gotta go right to Eric with that one.
Yeah, Eric, come on, let's have it.
I'll go for it. I could try.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Have at it.
Gosh, I think it's so interesting, like, because we talk about everything being online. So if we roll with Eric's vision of the future, which is probably 1,000% accurate, like, I think you're going to see more and more of these types of lawsuits, because if I trademark myself and say you can't use me, at least I'm protecting myself and I have action I can take. Gosh, it's going to be so interesting. But I think for people who are highly public, deep fakes and all that, like you're gonna have to get to a place where that's just gonna be a thing.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I kind of want to chew on that for a little bit. I agree somewhat with what Jen's saying. I think the thing that's always going to be the master policy, let's say, for lack of better, if you're in a public place, there ain't nothing you can do about it. I don't care if you trademark yourself or anything. If you're in a public place, you're stuck. You know, you
Well,
see
and they
all
really
these videos
talk
on
about
social media with people like recording. Like there's this one guy, and he is an irritant, but he'll sit outside of a store and he
oh, sure.
videotapes in, right? And he's like, "Oh, I'm documenting life like now in this era," right? Okay, whatever. And they
Sure.
try to kick him out of there, and then the police always come, and he says, "I'm on a public sidewalk. You're on a public sidewalk. Everything's fair game," and he is right. He's good to do that. If you don't want to be on camera, then don't be the public sidewalk. But that's a really slippery slope. Like I agree with both people. I can see he can do it, but I agree with the people that don't want to be on the camera. So
Well, and I think they're focusing mostly on using other people's voices, faces, videos for their
sure,
advantage. So it's
yeah,
like that unauthorized use. So like that I think it's just like copyright, you know, this is just kind of that new version of copyright and trademark. Yeah, I mean,
agreed.
we have a new tool that we're going to push out and we trademarked it, right? So I think that there are going to be spaces where it's going to be legit. We don't want someone to steal what we've invested so much in to take it
I
their
agree.
own.
I
So
totally agree there. I think what I'm saying is like if you're walking somewhere public and you're on somebody's video that they shared then to YouTube, right? Doesn't matter. You're not playing like a critical role in it, but you're seen. I don't think it would hold up there. But to your point, Jen, yes, if you're using your likeness to further your opinion or whatever it is, that of course can have an issue.
Up next on Judge Judy. All right.
I like that. That's a good question. I need to think about that some more.
Yeah, thanks for chiming in, Morningstar 6658. Love the questions. Thanks for the engagement. Thanks for listening. Anybody have anything to wrap up with, or are we moving on with our weekend here coming up?
I think
you should
Morningstar
listen to
might need
Sip
to be a guest.
Cyber.
I think Morningstar might need to be a guest on a show.
I got a question for Eric if you got 2 minutes, Eric.
Sure.
Eric's like, dang it.
How cold is it up there about 10, 20,000 feet right now? If it's minus 20 on the ground, is that just like is that like a non-issue because it's just freezing cold up there all the time? Or are there certain considerations you need to make before flying in weather like this?
So it's always colder up at altitude unless you've got an inversion, but generally it's the higher in altitude you go, the cooler it is, which is why we see snow on mountaintops. And if the mountaintop is 13,000 feet or what have you, there's a chance that you'll have cold. It'll be cold up there most of the year. The higher you go, but if you're up at altitude 30, 40,000 feet, it's going to be in the negatives, and it's just that way all of the time. So really the only preparations is the ones that you need to take on the ground, as far as getting the aircraft started. I remember I was in Iowa last year. It was a really cold weekend, and we were doing a tour of the bridges of Madison County. So like Friday we watched the movie, Saturday go down there to Iowa and check those bridges out. But it was really cold, like very similar to what we're facing now. And from the time that the we did an overnight in Iowa, put the plane in a hangar, had the heater plugged in, but from the time that it was pulled out to the time we got in it and got it started, it wouldn't start because it was so cold. So then had to put it back in the hangar, plug it back in, get it warmed up, and then be in it when they were pulling it out. And then as soon as they unconnected the tug, fired it up, and it worked. But when the temperatures before it's running, because the -20, -30, that's what it's going to be up at altitude. sometimes in the winter, not not in the middle of summer, but sometimes in the winter it'll be that cold, and I think the highest I'll fly is maybe 20 to 24, 25,000. So it's maybe -20, -30 at the worst. But once the engine is running, um, the the aircraft performs fine. You can play with the fuel mixture, so you can lean or enrich in the mixture to leave more heat in the engine. So if you're running the engine leaner, and it's the same thing, lawnmower engine, right? If you're running it leaner, it'll be hotter. So you can do that in the cold temperatures. But we've got gauges and indicators so we can see each cylinder head, what the temperature is. We can see the exhaust gas temperature coming off of the manifold, and make real-time adjustments to keep them in the operating temperature of the aircraft. On that trip too, on the way home, it was, as I had said, really cold, and the heat was full blast in the aircraft, and it still was not quite able to keep up and keep the cabin comfortable. So I think that would be the only downside to it, Josh, is making sure that you've got the temperatures are warm enough for the aircraft to be performant and that you're comfortable. That
Yeah,
was more than 2 minutes.
if you want to warm it up, you just turn on bridges over Madison County. It gets steamy. It
Oh
gets
boy.
steamy in there really
I
quick.
knew I regretted saying it as soon as I said it, but it
That's
was a fun trip.
that's the original Desperate Housewives right there. Meryl Streep, shout out.
Hey, that's a good
Shout
movie if
out.
you haven't seen it. Jen, Nick, you should watch it.
It's a good one,
And
especially
I
this
ain't got time for
cold
that.
winter weather. I loved it. Thanks so much for your time today, you guys. It's been a pleasure chatting with you about the news. Looking forward to the next one next month. You can always go to itauditlabs.com where we have a podcast page and it shows you where our next live stream is coming up. I believe field notes will be coming out in a week or two here. We have a game night coming up in early February, first Wednesday of every month. But please like, share, and subscribe. And if you have the time, please drop us a little review on Apple Podcast. And then check out our other podcast, Sip Cyber, presented by Jen Lotzi here in IT Audit Labs. So lots going on.
Doing a Rubik's Cube.
Keep checking in, and we'll see you in the next one. You've been listening to The Audit presented by IT Audit Labs. I'm your co-host and producer, Joshua Schmidt. Today we have Nick Mellum and Eric Brown and Jen Lotzi. See you soon.